Hi, welcome everybody, and this is Minor Ramos with Advanced Insurance Services, and you're looking at Mike D'Amico. You already know him, and he's been on the other webinars. So welcome to our webinar series where we look at insurance from a different perspective, something that you may have not seen. So to set this up, just have a thought for everyone that I really want you to consider. When you started in insurance, you were probably taught a certain way, and not everything that you were taught is, there's nothing new under the sun, but maybe you never heard some other things that could take place. But on average, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and a lot of those, 90% of them are on repeat, and about 80% of them are negative. And if you apply that to the knowledge that you have in insurance and financial services, it's probably very similar to something that you might be expecting. What I want you to do as you listen, when we go through what we're going to be covering today, is it's renewing your mind. Start letting go of some of the other things that maybe are in your head and circling around your head, and just open your mind. Your brain is like a sponge. Let it do its thing. Take out all the negative stuff out so that you're willing to be able to be here in the moment and experience from experts. So I'm going to have Mike introduce the experts, but Mike, 51 plus years in the insurance industry, myself, 20 plus years in mortgage banking industry. So, what we're going to talk about today, it lines up with those two arenas very, very nicely. So Mike D'Amico, take it away.
Minor, I got a problem.
Oh,
Yeah. If I only get 60,000 thoughts, I used up at least 30 or 35,000 just in the run up talking to Kirk and Jake. So
that's right.
I'm going to have to borrow from tomorrow, maybe. So, first of all, Minor, thank you. Thank you for providing the platform and putting us in touch with so many different agents and even some prospects that we may be talking to. It's my total pleasure to introduce two gentlemen who I've recently met in the last month and a half, whatever. And that's Jake Wolfe of US Life and Kirk Stafford of Desert Rose Capital Investment Group. These two gentlemen have built a program that we refer to as OPM, Other People's Money. And Kirk was just educating me prior to the conversation here on that's too stagnant in the just the idea of other people's money, which I really appreciated his coaching because he brought another whole 2 or 3 levels to the conversation in that what we're talking about is a financial vehicle that has the ability, as he put it, if, when, and as needed. Now, that sounds pretty nebulous, I understand, but what it boils down to, we're not talking about an end product. We're not talking about financed insurance in the essence that that's all it is. We're talking about a way of approaching your financial future and that of your client that's totally different than anything you've probably ever seen. It's going to use elements that you understand and that you recognize, but using them in such a creative manner that you provide all kinds of avenues for your client. So without belaboring it, because I already said too much, I want to introduce, again, Jake Wolfe, and I want to introduce Kirk Stafford, and I'm going to let them run the show. Gentlemen.
Well, thanks for
Awesome.
having us on. Yeah, we appreciate it. It's always good to talk shop. As long as I've been in the business as well, I learn stuff every day. Well, maybe not every day, but most days I learn something. And talking to other people that have that depth of experience, you pick up a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person, and hopefully we're becoming a little more wise and every day. So to do that, though, in fact, I just learned this the other day. I was watching a YouTube video that the guy was talking about really listening to people and really whoever you're talking to, just really kind of absorbing and trying to understand where they're coming from. And oftentimes you'll pick up little pieces from surprising sources, whether that's a 4-year-old. Jake's got some young kids there, and he'll probably be one of the first to tell you that those little guys teach you stuff sometimes that are very profound and straightforward. So patience, I guess, is one of the things they teach you, right, Jake?
More than enough patience for all the parents to have at the same time. They teach you too much patience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things that we're discussing, Mike, just before we started recording here was kind of that whole concept of OPM. And I love it. That other people's money is a very powerful concept. And I think in context of life insurance and the way we run life insurance, the OPM strategy, it's less about using other people's money to finance an insurance policy. That's not what we're wanting to do. What it's about is understanding that insurance in and of itself, in fact, I wasn't going to show a lot of graphs, but I can't help myself because I'm kind of a numbers nerd. And so I want to bring up just a couple little things to kind of give perspective. When you look at, let's see if my, why is that not showing up here?
I have that if you like, Kirk.
There we go. I think
There
I've
you
got
go.
too many Excel files open, trying to do too much. If you look at the world of investments, everything has unique characteristics, and there's almost always a huge trade-off. What I mean by that is if you want to keep your money ultra safe, you're going to have it maybe in a checking account or something. But guess what? You're not going to make any money, right? It's not even going to come close to keeping pace with inflation. And so the value of what that money buys, if you were to just keep all your money under the mattress or in a checking account, it's going to actually deteriorate over time. In fact, we've seen that in a big way over the last couple of years with inflation doing what it's doing, right? And everything has those certain characteristics. So some things might make a lot of money, but they might also lose all of your money. Okay, so that's a huge trade-off. There might be some things that are maybe lower risk long term, like let's say real estate, but short term they have quite a bit of risk. And if you use a lot of leverage in real estate, it can introduce a whole lot of risk, not just liquidity issues and not being able to get at it. It might involve a whole lot of your personal time and energy, so not just your capital resources. So usually what ends up happening is when you look at the spectrum of what things are supposed to earn and make you, usually what most people come up with is they come up with some kind of a mixture. If you look at this pie chart here, that it has some money that's going to go to growth investments, real estate, and your business and starting a business and stocks and Bitcoin and all the crazy things that people get into, right? And then usually there's a portion, depending on your risk tolerance, that's going to be in more conservative assets, something that's more steady, something that's going to just be there and available for you when you want to jump on an opportunity. That money is available now. You don't have to wait for it. And that category, when you look at that category, if we look at that on just maybe another quick perspective here, if you go 1 to 100 on a scale of risk and you map that out, that conservative piece is kind of over here on the left, obviously. If you compare just those pieces right there, and you look at what an insurance policy is just by itself, no leverage, no, just without all the bells and whistles of the things that we bring to the table in the OPM strategy, if you look at just the policy itself, depending on the type of policy, it's going to be anywhere from about a 4.5% clear up into an average of 8-9%, depending on the type of policy. On an after-tax basis, when you compare that to anything else in that category, just from an average rate of return standpoint, it blows the socks off of it. I mean, it's way better, head and shoulders above the rest. So as a portfolio manager, when we look at, should we do bonds or life insurance? If you've got the time horizon for life insurance, it's way better to use life insurance just in and of itself. So without getting
really,
into without getting into some of the other, uh, how we would normally present it and everything, just getting back to that concept and then saying, now that we have that concept, we have kind of a base of operations, if you will, a point where we can now launch and do all of the other things in our investment strategy with long-term planning and growth stocks and your business and all of those things. We can actually work from this asset that we've created and then start to use if, when, and as needed, like you mentioned, Mike. We can now use these cash values if, when, and as needed when it makes sense to go do these other things. So it doesn't stop you from using the same money to go out and, let's say, expand your business as an example. We now have this asset that we can use other people's money to borrow against. And because of the quality of the asset that we have, the borrowing costs are dirt cheap. I mean, dirt cheap. So even right now with interest rates going up, most of the carriers we use, they've got a cap of say 5%. Well, if you're borrowing at 5% and you're borrowing to go invest in your business, guess what? That 5% is now tax deductible. If you're in a high tax bracket, your actual cost is only 3. So if you're at 3% cost, the money that you have in that asset is still earning, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% interest tax free, and yet it's costing you 3. If you think you can make more inside of that policy than 3%, which I think is an extremely low barrier, if you will, then keep your money inside of the policy working for you, borrow other people's money, OPM, at a super cheap rate to then go expand your business. You're still going to get all the returns and everything you expect in that business, all the depreciation and all that other stuff. But now your money's actually still inside of the policy as well. So you're actually doing both at the same time. That's a very powerful concept. It's why it's why many of the very wealthy, they don't sell their stocks when they want to go buy a fancy house or their yacht or whatever it is. They have a line of credit against those assets that they borrow against at dirt cheap rates to then go get that yacht or whatever. Now, when they do that with their stocks, that can be a problem, right? I mean, that has a potential for, the stock to go down and cause margin calls and all kinds of goofiness. That's not the case with life insurance. And it's one of the reasons why we love leveraging life insurance. We've got one of our consultants, Jake's one of our great consultants, one of our other real good consultants. What he says all the time is he says, leverage is only good as the asset that you're leveraging. And that is such a true statement. If you're leveraging, something that's super volatile going up and down in value, and you borrow to buy into that or something, man, that could be a nightmare as soon as it turns on you. So
Kirk,
You
what
mentioned,
I'm hearing, and this just emphasizes what you said earlier about, the OPM, as much as you may like the term, it also, isn't exactly what you would like it to be. But what I'm hearing is rather than OPM being a product, it's a conceptual financial way of looking based on the conservative basis of life insurance. So it gives you all the flexibility, at the same time, all the protection within whatever framework of finances you're willing to put into it.
that's
right,
exactly right.
we don't manufacture the car. We're going to show you how to supercharge it, turbocharge it, put all the right exhaust pieces.
I like that.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the differences. So unfortunately in our industry, it's got a terrible reputation for a couple things. One of them is agents that either don't know what they're talking about, or the only thing they're thinking about is their commission.
Yeah.
Both of those are not good, right? You have to put your client first. The commissions will come when you do that. You will make money when you're using the right strategies and doing it for the right reasons. The money will come, and there's a lot of money in the available in the industry. You will have a very good lifestyle. And then two, you got to know what you're talking about. So, well, one of the things that happens in the industry is people will get so, they will buy into, and it might even be with the right presentation, they'll buy into it for the right reasons, say an insurance policy, then that's the last they hear from their agent. And they're kind of left on their own. Well, there's enough moving parts in these strategies that you really kind of need somebody that knows what's going on in the industry, what's happening with different carriers and cap rates, and how to take advantage of these uh, or that's probably the wrong term. You're not taking advantage of the policies. You're utilizing them to their best and highest use, right? And that takes somebody that focuses, these clients of ours, they're running their business, they're living their life, they're homemakers, they're, you know, fixing cars, whatever it is that they're doing for a living. They're not the experts in this. We are. And so having somebody like Jake to be able to go in there and optimize, like he says, take what is already a great product, a great car, and adjust that tire pressure for the track conditions, adjust the fuel mixture ratio, whatever it is that you've got going to adapt to what's going on in that individual's life. Because Mike, your life is different than mine's, is different than Jake's, is different than mine. Everybody's life, we have all these variables in the economy, crediting rates and the insurance carriers and interest rates, all these variables there. But most importantly, your clients have massive variables. They got married, they got divorced, they got a new job, they got laid off, they got a raise, they got whatever, all of these moving parts, and having an expert to guide them on how to adjust those policies and utilize them, it's a big deal. So,
you just keep, every time you talk, you just expand my head. And I'm just about ready to explode, but here's what I'm hearing. I just wanted to make sure our listeners are tuned in also. Okay, so the guy or gal who's got multi-millions of dollars surrounded by advisors, and they do all the stuff that you're talking about. We're actually able, through this program, to bring that same type of expertise at the level that the average working guy, I mean, a little bit above average, okay, is the person we're going to be talking to, but we can bring them the same type of expertise that the millionaires pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for inside of one program.
oh, absolutely. So, as much as I focus on finances and insurance, and we are actually, our specialty on the investment side has to do with an option strategy. I can't know everything about everything, and there's not enough time in the day to, even if I did, to be able to talk to every single person out there. And so having that team approach, with what Miner does, for instance, on the estate planning side of things, on that whole, trust structure, all of that is extremely valuable. And as much as I focus on rate of return, optimizing spreads, the lending side of things, there's so many nerdy things that I get into on that side of things. But guess what? I don't focus on what Miner is an expert at. And so having Miner on the team allows us to look at something and then not just look at how it's built, but where is it held? Who is owning that policy? How do we want to take income in the future? So you get this a focus from somebody on the team that's on the tax side, for instance, somebody that's focused. Like, we have a team that all they do all day long is literally help people with the financing side of things to make sure they're getting the best terms, the best rates. It's taken care of as quickly as possible. Our clients can't possibly know everything that we know on the financing side. And so we help facilitate that, you know, all of those pieces, the estate planning, you got the, you know, we were talking briefly about life settlements and where those fit and how those can come into play. Guess what? Even the very wealthy, you know, that are paying literally hundreds of thousands of dollars for their team, oftentimes that team doesn't know anything about life settlements.
Yeah.
The CPA, less. You know, there's so much that's that experience and breadth in the industry brings to the table. It's very, very valuable. So
We were just talking to a life settlement specialist, as a matter of fact, and he pointed out that right now, roughly 500,000 policies a year are being surrendered or cashed in or whatever. And only 3,000 out of the 500,000 are being presented with the idea of life settlements. So yeah, that's just one example of all the many layers that you do that the average advisor doesn't even know exist.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And that's, I guess that's part of the reason why we're having this discussion now, right? To kind of, even if something doesn't apply today with the client you're talking to today, if you have that bit of knowledge in the back of your brain somewhere,
Yeah.
when you run across that, you're going to go, oh, you know what? This might be a good place to talk to Mike about life settlements, for instance.
Yeah.
Or you know, okay, I just found somebody that's got a special needs child. We definitely need to get talking to Minor about how we're going to make sure that that special needs child is taken care of. So
Yeah,
we
great
could
point.
do it with this amazing tool. That's one of the things that I love about the OPM strategy is it's not just an off the shelf, put a little money here and you know 30 years from now you've got a whole bunch more. It's not that. It incorporates with the same dollar the ability to take care of you know estate planning type issues, to take care of the growing your money, keeping it safe, keeping it accessible at any time you need it to,
Safe from
helping
bank
on the
failures,
tax
by the
side of
way.
things. Yeah, yeah, great point, Jake. We just in the news here, we're just talking about, you know, the Silicon Valley Bank thing, and that's, you know, we just don't, the insurance industry does not have the same issues as the banking industry because they're not, you know, it's not a fractional reserve system, if you will, where they're highly leveraged. There's so many restrictions. That's a great point. It's a
Well,
great,
Kirk,
some people say it's like the Swiss Army knife of financial tools, and it really kind of is.
well, Kirk, I really thank you because what I enjoy the most about conversations with you, I can respect the technical background that gives you the success that you bring to the table. However, you keep it very down to earth. You make it very simple. And I agree with that type of philosophy. I'm not interested in impressing people, and I know you're not either. Um, because if the average person doesn't understand what we can provide, they're not going to listen. They're going to be scared. They're going to figure, well, you know, this is someone that knows so much more than me. Well, you know, you got a different education. That's all. You learned a different language over the period of
Yeah.
your adulthood. So I appreciate keeping it as simple as you do. Now, we've got this other pretty face sitting over here, almost pretty quiet, by the name of Jake Wolfe. And I'd like to pose a question to Jake because he's a whole lot more than just a pretty face. Jake,
Thanks.
we have a lot of young agents that are watching this, and they're saying, okay, you know, so you didn't scare me. You kept it simple. I understand I'm dealing with some possibilities for my client that I may not have ever realized before, but what should I look for? Who is a prospect that I can make this offer to?
Well, first of all, I really want to go back to some of the basics that Minor talked about. This isn't your typical life insurance that people think when they hear the term life insurance. And I think there's several agents out there that still think of it in that way. You're really just spending the minimum amount you need to just to get the coverage. And that's how the majority of the world, I could be wrong, but this is my opinion. I think most people still view insurance in that way. It's something that no one really wants to buy, but they should and they have to. So if you're an agent who can dive into, like Kirk said, the Swiss Army knife, or the customization, or the ability to turn something that traditionally was seen as something only as, you know, a boring necessity, into something that could be supercharged into a really amazing and cool high performance asset. Once you start to shift, if you're a young agent and you're trying to get, I would imagine that you will believe and be more excited about it once you start thinking of it in, instead of just money spent for a necessity to have your life covered, think of it as a transfer of your money from one pocket to the next, where now you have some locked in guarantees. Your money's going to grow. You build it for cash growth, number one. And you build it in a certain way that we can teach you, to where now it's not just something you have to buy. It becomes a phenomenal financial tool to actually not just give you a safe growth. Because it's a little bit more of a recap. I really want to just go back over this pyramid one more time. We're talking about this bottom tier here of ultra safe investments. Anything else, compare insurance to anything else, you're talking apples and oranges. We're talking about something that's going to give you the most guarantees you can find. But this right here in the very middle, insurance-based investments, if you're a young agent trying to believe in what you're selling, this is really the only customizable piece on this bottom tier. It's the only thing that has all the potential and the bells and whistles and the ability to supercharge it, is what I call it, because it's just a really easy way to imagine unlocking its potential. So to answer, the short answer to your question is, you're looking for people who want to think out of the box, who have money, who are looking to not only protect it from some of the wolves out there, like anything above 250,000, it's not FDIC insured. If you're looking for a place for it to be safe but still accessible, if you just teach your clients that you're not spending this money and it's gone forever, you're actually just putting it somewhere where it's safe, but you can still access it to do all of the other things in this upper tier. Because if you ask me, I love this pyramid, and I love how Kirk taught it, because I personally have a very high risk tolerance. I'm not afraid to roll the dice. And in fact, I kind of enjoy rolling the dice a little bit. So this isn't a question of whether or not I should choose between those two things. Our whole message is keep what you're doing, keep what you love, and just let us show you how you could funnel it through a much safer asset and still have access to it to invest in your business, to invest in these higher, potential returns, but yet higher risk as well. You can do the same thing. And the more you, if you're listening to this, the more you connect with us, the more you inquire about this, the more simple it will become. It's just a transfer from one pocket to the next, except now you're a gunslinger and you can have more flexibility with your safe money and more guarantees, more growth, more fun. So if you're an agent and you think of it like that, you're going to be more excited to sell it. You're going to have a higher close ratio if you teach insurance in that way. Permanent insurance, typically being harder to sell because of its being expensive. But if you build it for cash growth, then they won't see it as an expense. They'll see it as a tool, a financial tool.
Jake, that's a really great.
I hope that answered your question, Mike.
Yeah, it does. It does. I do want to fine tune it a little bit. However, again, the four of us have a lot of experience. Between the four of us, it's an immense amount of experience. But again, to the newer agent, okay, so the newer agent sitting down with a self-employed guy, has a family, he's talking about some basic insurance, and all of a sudden he starts thinking about, well, I saw these guys on YouTube, and they were talking about other people's money and how to turn this from just an insurance policy into a financial plan of sorts. But still, there's got to be a point to transition. What is that point? In other words, at what point do we take it from just an insurance policy to a plan that you and Kirk can show will take this business person way in advance of anything he expected?
Yeah, let me take that, Jake, if I could.
Yeah.
So, first of all, let me say a couple other things that I think are also super pertinent, especially for a newer agent that's getting into the business. What we're showing you, the OPM strategy, what Desert Rose Capital Management does on the option side of things to lower risk in stocks. Some of these things that you're going to be able to learn literally put you in the top tier. I mean, the best of the best when it comes to what you have available for the clients. And we talk with clients that are literally billionaires. We talk with people that are just getting started in life. So as much as we love the commissions and the revenue that comes from dealing with the billionaires, the fact of the matter is, and we love, by the way, we love what we do for them because we solve some real anxiety and issues that they have with charitable planning and taxes. There's a whole bunch of things that we help them with, and they need it too, by the way. They are not experts in what we are experts in. The insurance world is new to them. I don't care how successful they were with real estate or their business or whatever. We bring a lot of value to the table. So have that confidence that you can go toe to toe. You can talk with anybody and you don't have to hype anything. That's one of the things that I would definitely suggest that any new agent, you do not have to, get out the fireworks and do a dance and the pom-poms and cheer. You don't have to do that. You just don't. In fact,
Just tell them how it is.
everybody's got their style, but sometimes that's detrimental because then they're like, well, why are you trying so hard to sell this? It must not be that great. The reality is what we have is so valuable. It's going to really help, the multimillionaires. But it's life changing for the person that's just getting started out or the blue collar, mom and pop type of investors. It really is. It's life altering in their lifestyle. That billionaire, that multimillionaire that we're talking to, they already have the house that they want. They already have the lifestyle that they want. We will help them with peace of mind and help them do a lot more with what they have. Yes, but it's life altering that person right next to you, your family member, all of those things. And this applies to them as well. So what is the very first thing that anyone starting out of college, starting over again, whatever it is, what is the very first thing that anyone needs in their financial plan? It's an emergency fund. Like you got to have something to keep you out of credit card purgatory, right? You got to have something to fall back on when life hits you, and it's going to hit you. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, right? And so you have to have a little bit of a buffer. So before it's appropriate to go into real estate or stocks or your 401k or any of that, you got to have something to fall back on. So, okay, so now you got an emergency fund. Well, you should have a little cash on hand in the house, in your savings account. But after that, what are you going to do with your emergency fund? If you should have 3 to 6, and sometimes people say even 9 months worth of expenses set aside for emergencies, do you really want to leave that inside of a bank doing absolutely nothing? Right? You got to put it somewhere. Well, where's the best place to park? Like that chart we were showing earlier. What's the best place to park that conservative money that can be accessible at any time, is going to grow for you? Oh, and by the way, it's going to help save you a whole bunch of term insurance costs because it's got a big death benefit available. So it's going to give you an instant estate in case something happens to you, right? It's going to make sure your family's taken care of. Well, you can do all of that literally with money that was just sitting inside of a checking account. So if you're just getting started even, and you're trying to sock away a couple $100 a month or something, where are you going to put that? What are the best places to put that is inside of an insurance policy. And then once you've got that little, nest started, if you were, or nut, whatever you want to call it, once you've got that started, now you can use that as a platform to springboard into all of the other things that you want to get into, whether that's rental properties, whether it's, stocks, whether it's, whatever. That's now given you that base of operations, if you will, that optimizes that money that was literally just sitting there. So anyone from somebody just literally trying to figure out how to make it through the month to somebody that's doesn't know what to do with all their money that they have, we can help them. One of the things that I love about this too, in fact, I was listening to another podcast, I can't remember what it was, but it was talking about the power of hope and the power of not necessarily having your problems taken away and removed from you, but if you have a path on how to get through those problems, it changes everything instantly. So I can't tell you how many times that I've sat down in front of somebody and they're really worried about, can I retire? In fact, Jake, we were talking with one of your clients one time just here recently, and she was just really nervous. She wants to retire in a big way, but she's like, I don't know if I can, and really anxious about it. Well, after talking to her, she's got now a roadmap, if you will, for how to retire and know that she's going to be just fine. Well, she hasn't retired yet. She's still working at this job that she's wanting to leave, but she now has the pathway on how to get there and the roadmap, if you will, and the anxiety, just like you could just see her relief, if you will. So
Just that in itself is very powerful, because how many people will sit down and get on a spreadsheet and calculate their expenses and calculate how much they're saving and try to project it into the future, and how many people are going to do that on their own? That's one of the
they don't even know
tools
where to
that
start, right?
they don't know where to start. So that's one of the things that we bring to the table and walk our clients through. It's not a customized, well, it is customized, but the point is just visibility is something we provide and show them, and it's a big breath of fresh air. And one last thing I'd want to say, I had a firefighting job, wildland fire. That was never something we would fight unless we had what was called an anchor point. And this is going to make sense in just a second, but when you arrive onto an incident and there's a raging fire, you do nothing. You don't even try until you have a safe place where you can start attacking the fire, but you also have an escape route and you have a safe place to stand as a foothold, and we call that an anchor point. And I love that you said, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, whether you're starting out with, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says he went to Miami with $7 in his pocket and now is a billionaire, or you're the billionaire himself, no matter who you are, you need an anchor point. And there's a list of places that you can have that. Are you going to have it in an FDIC insured savings account making nothing? Are you going to have it in bonds where you don't have any flexibility? Are you going to, like, the point is there. The anchor point is needed for everyone. And I love how powerful of a tool insurance is for that piece.
Yeah. When you learn, Mike, you mentioned the business owner. When you learn about, the corporate version of OPM, it's almost, it's not, cheating is the wrong word, but it's like, it's almost a cheat code for life, right? It's such
It's a
a
hack.
good tool. It's a hack. That's probably a better term for it, because it's not cheating. It's obviously 100% legitimate. But it's a hack. We showed a guy yesterday. So he and his wife's got a great consulting business, and they're crushing it. They're really making some good money. They're paying a lot in taxes, which we're going to help out with quite a bit as well. But we showed him how to just take what his money that's just kind of the reserve, kind of an emergency fund for his business. We showed him how to park that instead of at the bank, park it inside of these policies. He'll have all of these extra things. He'll make money actually literally the very first year. So if you've been around the business and of insurance in a while, that should make you go, wait, what did he just say?
Yeah,
So
right.
you need to follow up on that conversation because it is awesome. But it makes a little bit during the early years, and then it's just this really good expected returns and income for the business. It'll improve the valuation of his business. It'll give his employees an awesome benefit that they don't have to pay for. It gives them some tax write-offs. So all of those things wrapped up into one, and then we showed him a calculator that our purposing calculator that shows kind of what Jake was talking about earlier, where you can really do two things at the same time. He was like blown away. I mean, I wish I had it recorded because he was just like, anyway, he was excited about it. So, and you can do that with anybody. I mean, you can literally sit in front of anybody. The more you learn about where it applies, how it applies, you don't have to do a song and dance to get them excited about it. You just listen to what it is that their concerns are, what it is that they have, where it is that they're going now. And then in almost every single case, it can present something that will help take what they're already doing and add to it. That's one of the things I say that all the time. It's super important to me. You know, there's I want to say it's Sandler training technique. They teach you to blow up their island. In other words, make them very uncomfortable with what they're doing today. And then you come in as this white knight on your horse and then provide a solution that saves the day, right? It works. It's obviously very, very successful. It's a very popular training system, so it absolutely works. However, it's not my style at all. I like to say, tell me what it is that you're doing. Why are you doing it? I want to understand what makes you tick. Sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they're scared to death, and so that makes them do, just savings accounts or CDs or something like that. Sometimes they have this perception that, hey, if I just put some money in Bitcoin or whatever it is, I'm going to make so much money that I'm going to be filthy rich. And so, everybody's different. But if you figure out why they do what they do and what it is they're trying to accomplish, then you can come in there and add to what they're already doing. So for instance, if I've got somebody that loves real estate, and let's say they're doing flipping houses or rental properties or something, I'll figure it out what it is that they're doing, and then I'll show them how we can add to what they're already doing. In other words, I'm not going to go in and say, "Oh, that's a dumb idea. You shouldn't do that." What you should do is just what I tell you to do. Well, in that situation, you're in this tug of war. You have to they have to admit that what they were doing is wrong. Like there's so much at play there psychologically that they don't want to do, even if you're flat out right. They don't want to admit it, right? And so, but if you can show them a better way to add value and, okay, let me show you how to be a better real estate investor. If we incorporate this other tool, you're actually going to make more money as a real estate investor. That's a true statement, by the way. We've got a whole presentation on that. You're in stocks, you love stocks, you're a Dave Ramsey fan and think you should buy term and invest the difference. Okay, let me show you. I can take that investor, show them how they can own exactly what they own right now with a lot less risk, make just as much, in fact, frankly, more. And at the same time, at the end of that conversation, they're going to end up buying a whole lot of insurance because of the structure that we have with something we call the IOP, the Integrated Options Portfolio. So I don't care what it is that you do. If you own an asphalt company, you don't want to stop expanding your asphalt business so that you can do an insurance policy. Come on. Like that's not exciting. I'm just being frank. Like who wants to buy insurance, right? It's if you don't know what it actually is, you're thinking, no, that's like the last thing I want to do. Like Jake was saying, Most people think of it as an expense, you know. No, I want to put as little as possible into it. Well, once you understand how it works and how this will allow you to take money that you don't have to distract from your growing your asphalt business or whatever it is that you do, you can take money that's literally parked in a bank, park it somewhere else inside of these policies and get a whole lot more out of it. Now we're talking about how to improve what you're already doing. Okay, now I'm interested, right? And then the more you understand and the more you get it, the more you're like, man, how much can I get into life insurance? That's literally, by the way, I know I'm ranting a little bit here, but um, one of our biggest problems, people ask, what's the weakness? Like, what can go wrong? What's the problem with this? And I tell them there's three things that are not ideal. One of them is it's an insurance policy and it takes, you know, there's a lot of upfront costs. And so it's not an instant flip the switch and I'm making a ton of money. It's going to take some time. But guess what? Unless you plan on dying in the next few years, and then of course you really want to get the insurance, right? Unless you plan on dying right away, you're going to be around for a long time. And so this is a tool that doesn't prevent you from doing everything else you want to do. You're going to want to have this anyway. So it does take a while to get kind of off the ground and really before it's really doing all that it can do. But that's one of the issues. One of them is you got to qualify for it. So if you can't qualify for a decent offer from an insurance carrier, there might be some other things you can do with either family members or employees or you know something like that. But that's just a limitation. Not everybody can get it. And then three, there's a limit on how much you can get into it. So when I first came into this and kind of developed this program that we have, I got literally as much as the insurance carrier would give us. I then got as much as I could get on my wife, and we have 5 kids, and so we got as much as we could on all of them. I would have got it on the cat if they would have given it to us, and then the cat probably would have gone for a walk. But no, just kidding. But you know what I mean? Like, and then that was it. That's all I could do. And I was like, well, that was awesome, but I wish I could put more of my money into this. And just a short story there. What came of that is actually a whole new industry in the life settlement space and in what we call the cash value fund, where we actually buy people's policies, cash values, and do the strategy inside of that wrapper. It's only for accredited investors, but and then I have literally purchased businesses. I like their model, so you know, obviously, I still like their business model. But I've literally bought into a very large business because they have hundreds of employees. So, which gives me the ability to now take more of my capital and have more capacity. So I've literally bought a business to specifically do the strategy. So anyway, those are some of the limitations that you have.
Gotcha.
You got to qualify with your health as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I'm hearing in the background that's not being said, but it's being emphasized, is what I tell all new agents. This is all about fact finding. This is all about sitting down with the client, talking about who they are, and what they want, what their goals are. After you've seen that, then you can come to somebody like yourself, Jake, and you have a story. And now how do you build on that story? And that's what you gentlemen, you know, seem to bring to the table.
We have, let me give you another extreme example that I like to give to emphasize a point. What we have is it really is so powerful and so good, you don't have to hype it. And that will help you sell it because people can tell when you're genuinely giving them a solution that you know in your heart of hearts is as good as it is. They can sense that beyond the words that you're saying, they can sense your intent and will resonate resonate with that. That will help you sell. If you don't try to sell, if that makes sense, you're just trying to help them with the best solution possible, and they'll sense that, and you'll gain a lot of trust because of that. And it's not a false trust. We joke around that people start looking under the couch cushions for more money to put into it because they're that excited about it. And I want to emphasize that with an extreme example. Unfortunately, people get hooked on meth and some of these really strong drugs that are out there, and the desire to get high for them is so strong that they will literally do anything it takes to get high, whether that's sell
Steal from their
themselves,
grandma.
steal from their grandma, you name it, they will do it because they want it that bad. So, obviously we don't want anybody selling themselves or stealing from their grandma, right? But the point is if you point people in the right direction and give them something valuable, you not only are going to relieve the anxiety, you're going to give them direction in their life. They will figure out how to get there. You know what I mean? They will work towards getting what they now want. So, people spend their money. I mean, they vote with every dollar that they spend. So when somebody says, I want to save money and I don't have any money, and so I can't, say buy even a term policy, but then they're going out and buying pizza and going out to dinner and buying junk food and that kind of stuff. What are you really saying? You're saying that you value this junk food more than you do the term insurance that you want to buy. You know what I mean? So when you can point them in the right direction and they can see the value of what this is going to do for them, then all of a sudden they start figuring out, you know what, I can do without, going out to eat as often as we do, or whatever it is that they need to do, change in their life to get themselves in the right spot financially. So
It's just finding
anyway,
the financial priorities,
yes.
what it boils down to. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this conversation really ties in with another segment of the webinar series that we did. Mike and I did the 8 principles for building wealth, the strategies for financial freedom. And you touched on them, really just don't underestimate what you've got right now. Start where you're at. I'm not going to go through all of them, but then leveraging everything. That was another one. And then the circulation of your money. Right. And then finally, I think this one's really cool is the idea of pay debts with profits, which is, again, maybe counterintuitive to what people have heard and what people are used to going to. So one aspect of our training is that, some of these are going to be, students that do have a license. They are in the industry. And can we talk a little bit about how we integrate this conversation with someone who might be a captive agent, maybe somebody who's got the IMO handcuffs? Oh, I shouldn't have said it that way, but you know what I mean. And so, so that because really they're not going to go to their own IMO and do what we do. And so there's a way to do it. There's a way to give the clients that level of opportunities and options to be able to do what could potentially be done for them. So who are we talking to here, and how do we get them connected?
Good question. So one of the analogies I like to give, if you've ever seen the movie The Truman Show, where he grows up as a baby, it's like this real life, reality show, and he's the only one that doesn't know it's a reality show, and so he finally, spoiler alert, he finally realizes that he's inside of this goofy reality show world stadium, and he escapes, and he gets out, and he's just like, oh my gosh, like there's so much more out here. So unfortunately, there are some IMOs and some captive insurance agencies where they restrict the knowledge that you have and the resources that you have to the point where you're not going to learn about life settlements is a great example. Like they just won't even tell you about it, which, by the way, if I'm an attorney, I would be going after those guys for not providing the knowledge of what they could get instead of surrendering. That's a whole nother topic. But the point is they may have some decent products and services, but there's so much more out there. And if it's to the point that you cannot function and do what you need to do with your clients, to me, that it's time to make a decision. It really is. That's a non-starter for me. If I'm a doctor and I can't do what my client or my patients need, that's a problem, right? I want to be able to provide the best care for my patients as possible. It's the same thing with this. Now, granted, sometimes we're talking about sixes, six of one, half a dozen of the other. You've got a good product and service that you can do inside of your organization. But if you're not allowed to take your clients to a whole nother level, to me, I don't know, that's just me. I think it's time to reevaluate where you are and where you want to be. Do you want to not tell your, I give this example. Imagine you're a doctor that does knee replacement, and the normal knee replacement takes 8 weeks or whatever to recover, and it's super painful and all that. Imagine if there were a way to do that outpatient, and they can leave 2 hours later and everything's perfectly fine and dandy. But your hospital wants to charge more, and they want that 8-week process, and they don't want to bother teaching you the new technique. Like, can you imagine going to your client
They
and
don't make
saying,
as high as
well,
a commission.
yeah, it pays more commission, or it's more comfortable. I don't have to learn anything new. Can you imagine going to your client, your patient, or your patient finds out, wait a minute, I could have done this in 2 hours and now and with a lot less money, but you didn't bother telling me about that? Like, anyway, it's just messed up, right? Like, who would do that? And yet that does unfortunately happen in the financial world. So anyway, my 2 cents.
That's an important. Well, it is advanced insurance services. Therefore, we talked about renewing your thoughts and changing the way the old way of thinking. So there has to be a movement somewhere. If we're gonna teach you how to circulate money, we got to circulate your mind and your thoughts as well, right?
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what, if you guys have stuck around and listened to this webinar for as long as we've been on here, we're just getting started. Like this, you guys haven't seen much of what really is out there, but we wanted to give you a high level overview of the potential that's out there. And look, there's over 100, I could easily say there's over 100 years of experience between this panel. I mean, easily. And so many different levels of it, so many different aspects of it. And, we'll start out with a common conversation here. It's like, where do we start? Well, it depends, right? It depends what we're gonna, what we're trying to achieve.
It's actually a sign, Minor. That's actually an actual sign we have up in our office.
But made it a vision statement.
It depends. Yeah.
It depends. Yeah.
Because everyone has different needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go around the table here and some final thoughts. Let's start out with Jake, and then we'll go over to Kirk, and then we'll finish up with Mike.
Yeah. My final thought would be, this is just something that applies. It's like the Swiss Army knife. It applies to everything finances. It applies to the cores, the truths out there of how money works. And it turns it into a strategy, if you will. So I think of this as it's like an umbrella for whether have an asphalt company, or whether you own a cleaning business, or whether you're just a McDonald's fry cook. If you have money, this is just truth. And we want to Kirk says, there's a lot of concept and philosophy out there. What about 2 + 2? What about math? What about things that we can show you and just not add any fireworks or any fancy sales tactics? We just want to walk through the numbers and the logic and mitigate our risk where we can. And that's why I feel like there's nothing I'm going to do different the rest of my life. This is just true concepts about money, how they work. And that's why it's not just insurance. It's a big picture of everything out there and expertise on when and how to use what tools for a job, which is financial success and retirement and freedom. That's my final thought.
Thanks, Jake.
All right, final thought from me. That's that could be an hour-long conversation. So, anyway, I would say the statistics in this industry are appalling with the number of people that actually survive and make it. Doesn't need to be that way. Having the right tools in your toolbox gives you a huge advantage over other people. I would say one of the paralyzing effects that sometimes can take place in the industry is people that do realize there's a lot to learn and they feel like they have to know it all before they get started. And I think that's a big mistake. One, you're going to starve, your family's going to starve before you actually become effective. And the reality is you don't need to do that. So if you want to learn from the best, you work with the best and you apprenticeship alongside of them, right? So going back to that car analogy that Jake was giving out earlier, if I'm new to being a mechanic, I don't know everything. It's going to take years and years and years before I really am an expert at it, right? But that doesn't mean I can't go to work for, that expert mechanic and work alongside them and learn as I'm going. So having the right tools and the right team on your side that are, they are, we are the experts. Having that team alongside of you allows you to get going, be effective, have the right team. And then as you're doing it, you're also making money because now you don't have to make all of the mistakes that we've made over the years, right? We can figure out how to connect with that person immediately to generate some revenue so that you can pay the bills and be successful while you're becoming an expert. And if you want to be an expert, you need to be around the right experts and the right team. And I think that's super important. So final shot. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'm way over my 60,000 thoughts today. The Jake and Kirk, you just keep expanding my mind every time we talk. And I just hope some of the people listening can take advantage of some of the fantastic things that you've incorporated in this conversation. So the first thing is, Jake, Kirk, thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time. I do understand how valuable it is, and I feel privileged that you do take the time with us. And Minor, I want to thank you for providing the platform that we can bring some of the things that we're talking about to the industry, because I know it's evident that all four of us have a deep respect for the industry, for what we can do for people, and being willing to help the people to help the people. So, Minor, thank you for that. And
Thanks.
I'm done.
Yeah, well, it's all about impact. I never talk commissions. I don't even use the word commissions when we talk about this stuff. It's all about impact. It's what elevates a family and what it can do for them. And this is my final thought. I recently redid my video to my family. I thought it was going to be 15 minutes. It ended up being 35, 39 minutes, I think it was. Because every year something changes. And so to go back into my message to them and let them know exactly where the message is housed, how they can access it, and the fact that everyone knows that the message is out there. That's powerful. That's what legacy planning is. But all of it is, everything else that we've talked about is a funding mechanism for what we do for impact. And so my message to impact is this: don't wait another day. Don't wait until we get around to it. Do it today. And then, of course, as you continue learning with our webinar series and the curriculum that we put together for you, there's a lot of thought and a lot of experience and a lot of years that we've been put into it so that you can continue growing. Everyone, thank you again for watching another webinar series of Advanced Insurance Services. Minor signing off. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Minor.
All
Thanks,
right.
Mike.
Thank you, Minor.
Thanks, Jake.